We are all going to die one day, and if we have to waste what little time we've got playing video games, they better be the right ones. Today we are looking at Shadowgun Legends, a mobile sci-fi first-person shooter that claims to be free to play, but is it worth my time? Since the very first video in the Worth My Time series, I've been getting comments like this. You should look at Shadowgun Legends, Anthony. If you like this game, you have to look at Shadowgun Legends. Really great video, I subbed. P.S. Anthony, you are so cute. Every moment you're on camera, I can barely contain myself. Also do Shadowgun Legends. So with the game finally released, I thought it was time to fulfill everyone's hopes and dreams, but I could have actually looked at the game a little sooner. A few months back, after looking at Modern Combat Versus and Rules of Survival, I was contacted by a representative of Madfinger Games. They said, I stumbled on your videos and really enjoyed them. I see you already heard of our game. In reference to a video all the way back in November where I talk about people wanting me to check it out. A lot of people in the comments were telling me to look at Shadowgun Legends when that comes out, and I kind of plan on doing that. I'll check it out because Shadowgun Legends seems kind of cool. It looks like a Destiny-esque thing, and I know Shadowgun is that like third-person shooter series, I believe, right? They offered to let me check out the game's beta even if I ripped it apart, and that's why I'm including this email in the video. Although I declined wanting to look at the finished game, I think it's really important the developers are open to criticism and actively encourage it. So thank you to Madfinger Games for being so open and honest. And now that the game is finally released, I'd be happy to tear it apart. So let's jump right in and take a look at Destiny. Now, Shadowgun Legends is the second or maybe third game in the Shadowgun series. I'm not really sure. All I know is it's a series of shooters for mobile devices, and it has very little to do with this. Shadowgun Legends is Destiny, and I want to get that comparison right out of the way. I'd like to say now, if you're not the biggest fan of Destiny, maybe you'll enjoy it more with a different set of expectations. What was seen as a disappointing follow-up to one of the biggest series in gaming history could instead be seen as an impressive feat on a different platform. So that's what I'm here to find out. Is Shadowgun Legends worth my time? The game starts and plays what is very clearly an expensive trailer they made for the game, and you're damn right they're gonna show it off. This intro can't be skipped the first time, but it does a good job of introducing the tone of this game. A very inconsistent tone at first. 10 years of brutal warfare. 10 years of invading aliens sweeping towards Earth, annihilating all in their path. 10 years of bloodshed as the Planetary Federation fights a losing battle, barely resisting the relentless horde. Our heroes are already dead. Hold on, never mind, your legend has arrived, baby. Here, hold my beer. Oh no, a big robot, what are we gonna do? So the real tone of this game is, don't take any of this too seriously. Just shoot aliens and have fun. Hell, one of this game's main goals is to get sponsored by this world's version of Mountain Dew and Doritos. It's just with that opening text, the game goes from Schindler's List to Guardians of the Galaxy like that. This intro also does a good job of setting up the point of this game. Legends in Shadowgun Legends refers to the players, all working to be the biggest legends. Players are, in a sense, competing with each other to be the bigger badass. And this is a simple enough reasoning to send you on different little shooty sci-fi missions. Compare this to the setup of Destiny that treated every player like the savior of the universe. Every player discovered the same planet-shattering events, and well, boy, that's a bit of a disconnect, isn't it?
But we know the real fight takes place out there.
Before we hop into actual gameplay, I wanted to let you know that footage in this video was recorded on a PC using an emulator. I did play the game on my phone, but the footage didn't look all that great, so I went back through it on PC. With that out of the way, you customize your character a bit, pick your experience level, a great idea by the way, I hate unnecessary tutorials, and get dropped into the hub, which is basically this game's tower, but with a lot more noise. All that noise is your adoring fans cheering for every little thing that happens. Customize your character, they cheer. Complete a mission, they cheer. Just show up. I guess the idea is to cheer for the player, ooh, look how cool you are, keep playing our game, but it can be a bit much when you just want to look through your inventory. It's part of the game's world though, with the idea being to show off to other players in the hub. The big statue in the middle will show the character with the highest rank, and billboards display different players all over the hub. It's not really a big driving force for me, but I can see how things like this would motivate players. You get missions by talking to different NPCs around the hub. The ballerina from Blade Runner buys and sells weapons. Bam Margera's dad likes armor. Jeff Goldblum handles multiplayer. Quake Teeth guy deals with exotic weapons. I'm running out of references. Kano plus Jax plus Cheeseburgers deals with sponsorships. In the bar we have robots and but most importantly, we have generic washed-up game hero from a few years back because every game needs to have a female protagonist now. Or Slade, who gives you big campaign missions.
Let's say good luck, but you won't need it.
One of the main things that impressed me in Legends was its variety of missions and how it uses its limited resources. Missions can vary from silly bird rescues to full assaults on enemy compounds with a surprisingly large scale for a phone game. I made a list of all the missions the game had me do, like destroying a giant anti-air gun, minor stealth missions where you have to avoid security cameras, missions where you track down and defeat a high-level target or boss fight, missions to locate and destroy alien pods that I assume are turning people into horrible monsters, a mission named Destiny Calls. They knew what they were doing. A mission to destroy the core of a facility while waves of enemies attack, missions helping soldiers defend and fight off enemy onslaughts, finding and retrieving a special guitar with a full drum set, posters, and beer, a mission collecting flowers for Bam Margera's dad to give to his wife, hacking terminals with a simple but somewhat engaging minigame. On a side note, is it weird whenever it wanted this one I was like, oh, the penis one? And the previously mentioned bird mission where you have to locate a pet bird and extract information from it. But since it can't speak, they have to probe the bird's eyes. Yes, this is a real thing. The game likes to have fun and not take itself too seriously, which I definitely prefer over
All ends are beginnings. Our fight is far from over.
In fact, Shadowgun Legends has pretty much the same amount of context and variety as Destiny. But on a mobile game, that's fine, and even commendable. Shadowgun Legends does some things better than any other mobile game, while Destiny never really did anything better than its competition. The game's mission variety is impressive, but eventually things do start to repeat as new daily missions come in. Campaign missions, however, always take place in unique locations, opening up new areas of a larger map. This is where I'm impressed with Legend's use of limited resources. Side missions take place in the same location as previous campaign missions, but with different doors open that were locked before and debris covering certain locations. This makes areas feel new again when you go through them backwards or take different paths to end up in similar locations. Games like Destiny are guilty of using the same locations over and over with little variation, and Legends could have done the same thing. But the guys or girls over at Madfinger Games cared enough to vary things up the most they could, and I appreciate that. Anyways, enough sucking off Madfinger Games. And don't worry, I can make that joke because this game is for adults. Legends has a noticeable edge to its world, at least compared to other mobile games. While most would go after the younger audience of mobile gamers, Madfinger decided Shadowgun Legends is for adults. But more in the I threw it on the ground kind of way. With ass shots possible and questionable language, not to mention everyone in the universe seems to have passed out in a drunken stupor, you can even go to the club and get lit or whatever with sex robots. The game's aesthetics definitely speak to middle school me's sense of cool. It's all about going on missions, finding cool gear, and pimping out your character so you can hit the club and impress the ladies. And look, I can get down with that as long as the game behind it is fun. That's kind of my transition into the whole gameplay section of the video. I wanted to do this effect where I'm like hanging out in the club on these really weird couches, but I couldn't figure out where to fit it in, so here I am. Gameplay. If there was one thing I'd say Destiny got right, it was the feeling of its weapons and combat. So how does Shadowgun Legends compare? I will say it's better than most shooters I've played on my phone, but still not perfect. First off, the good. The game features the most intuitive controls I've used on a touchscreen, with no useless circles under your fingers, and double tap to aim down sights removes another useless button. By default, normal guns and pistols automatically fire, which can take some getting used to, but power weapons have a fire button, presumably to not waste their limited ammo.
Ah, what a shot!
While on the topic of control, I did play a good amount of the game on the touchscreen, but I also tried out 2 other methods. First, an HDMI cable and a controller, the SteelSeries Stratus. Not sponsored. The game features comprehensive controller support with a button to bring up a mouse and everything. It honestly feels great, and I even used my phone like a tiny Nintendo Switch and still had fun. Legends is a game that definitely punches above its weight and feels closer to a console shooter than anything. All the footage you've been watching was recorded using BlueStacks on my PC with keyboard and mouse, feeling pretty natural after playing for a bit. I just put it to full screen and actually got sucked in. It was like having Destiny on my PC. Oh, wait, they did do that, didn't they?
Okay, listen up. You're a bunch of dirty misfits, but you're all that's left, so you'll have to do.
So it controls well enough, but unfortunately how it feels still leaves a bit to be desired. Guns often feel sluggish, with slow animation when reloading or just walking around. Weapons with a low rate of fire feel the worst, which led me to using a lot of high rate of fire SMGs and machine guns. Sniper rifles are good with a satisfying punch, but god, shotguns are the worst. I don't get how some games' weapons have such awful sound design. Halo used to be the worst with its assault rifle, sounding like a machine that counts money or something. But now Shadowgun Legends has it beat, with shotguns that sound like a light sneeze. The game has an option to equip best gear automatically, but I had to stop using it because shotguns have the highest amount of damage but the lowest amount of satisfaction. I'm supposed to be a sci-fi badass, so let me feel like that.
Fresh flesh. Fresh flesh.
Another element I definitely missed was melee attacks. At first I thought this element was left out for the sake of decluttering the screen, but then hope arised. The game features an upgrade tree with different add-ons like more health, grenades, and even a little turret friend to help you in combat. One of the unlocks is a powerful kick to knock enemies back. That's perfect, I thought, let's get it. But that's when I made a horrible discovery. The kick has a random chance of activating on its own. Why? That's not satisfying, that's nothing.
Disappointed!
It's just one element, but with so much of the game's presentation impressing, it makes me wish the guns in combat would follow suit. Speaking of presentation, I bet many of you are surprised I haven't brought up how good this game looks. Well yeah, Shadowgun Legends looks really good. And I bet you were waiting for me to say, for a phone game, but I don't know if that's fair. There are elements of this game that are clearly scaled down, like outdoor environments and winding corridors and elevators that I assume are good for hiding load times, but other than those things and some of the gun animation stuff I mentioned, the game looks good. It's not a masterful piece of art, but environments are detailed and littered with small visual touches. The hub is genuinely impressive, with so many players running around, visually distinct NPCs, billboards, signs, confetti, robots! It all comes together to make the hub feel like a place and not just another menu you have to walk around. So in that sense, I'm impressed it was done on my phone, but overall, it's a visually impressive game. Music, on the other hand, doesn't do the presentation any favors. I get it, you guys spent all of your time making the game look good, but the stock music library certainly doesn't add to the experience. Shadowgun Legends does feature a competitive multiplayer portion, but much like Destiny, it feels like a bit of an afterthought. With modes like 1v1 duels and 4v4 team battles with basic maps to run around and shoot each other in, you can have some basic fun. There's nothing really wrong with the game's competitive stuff, but I feel like the game's slower mechanics work best when fighting through hordes of AI. Speaking of which, Legends also has co-op multiplayer in the form of dungeons. Much like raids in Destiny, players work together and fight their way through this large dungeon. Again, what impressed me was a smart reuse of assets, here opening up the entire first level of the game, creating a puzzle and challenge around it. What before was a series of small mission areas now feels like a big facility with more challenging enemies all over. I only played the first dungeon because of my level, but I assume as more of the campaign maps open up, so do new dungeons. This is where I would spend most of my time in Legends multiplayer, and speaking of spending, Let's talk about money. That's the best transition I got. Business-wise, Shadowgun Legends seems pretty normal, with basic gold you can buy to get special cosmetic items and armor. Also, while playing, you will receive both silver and gold loot boxes that can be opened at the hub. Silver ones usually contain some kind of skin for your character, but the gold boxes require a key to open that costs a pretty good amount of gold coins. While technically, yes, you can earn these in-game by watching a few ads each day, it'll take so long you'll probably just say screw it and pony up the cash. If you don't unlock these boxes, they will remain in your inventory, taking up space that could be used for other items. So you have a choice to make, either buy yourself a key or throw away a special shiny gold box, and I can see how that can be a temptation for some. But these are all pretty normal practices for a free-to-play game and don't feel overbearing, especially when the game already provides a pretty robust experience without putting in a single dime. The only thing that really seemed weird to me was the game's in-game casino area. Unlike other games that hide their gambling-like elements behind random loot boxes or other systems, Legends just has a straight-up casino. There you can pay not only in-game money to use slot machines, but also those gold coins you can pay real money for. Is that not considered gambling? I don't know the exact rules around this, but having a slot machine you can pump real money into feels weird. I'm sure it's legal and whatnot, but maybe keep this game away from your friends with addictive personalities. So yeah, overall Shadowgun Legends is pretty impressive, checking most of the boxes I expected and exceeding some others. But if I had to criticize a few elements, the biggest two would be these. One is how the game's campaign gates progress behind your character's level. Now many games do this, and honestly in the early missions it wasn't really noticeable. You can easily go from one campaign mission to another by only doing a few side quests here and there. But as the game went on, the required level gap just seemed to get wider and wider. This was why missions seemed so varied early on, when you weren't required to grind out multiple side quests. They even let you play the campaign missions a level before they're recommended, which were honestly some of the more enjoyable moments because of the added challenge. But after beating these missions, the game started asking me to grind out 2 or 3 levels just to continue the campaign. This is when I noticed the repetition setting in. Defend the same bridge from enemies, go destroy more alien pods. If this stuff popped up in the endgame, I would understand, and maybe the missions are specifically paced out for the multiplayer dungeons, but I would much rather have the option to blow through the campaign if I wanted to, rather than being blocked at every mission. My other main problem with Destiny is just that. Why is it so much like Destiny? And I don't mean it plays the same or has the same structure. I'm not PUBG wrongfully suing people. But why do so many elements have to be exactly the same? You have a hub location where players hang out, get missions, buy gear, and run around with a third-person camera. Players carry 3 weapons, a normal weapon, heavy weapon, and a pistol. Shooting enemies with those guns makes numbers fly out of them, and those enemies feature a main soldier type, a more animalistic type that charges you, little flying drones, big heavy dudes with shields. Not to mention most of these bad guys get dropped in via drop ships. Some of the enemies you kill drop blue or green holograms that you then take back to a guy on the hub to decode them to get items. Multiplayer even does the thing where you have to pick up heavy ammo just to use them. Why is it so similar? I get following Destiny's success, but change things up a little bit. Make engrams something like junk boxes or old circuit boards that need to be decoded. Make the heavy enemies look different, with heavy armor maybe scavenged from the old war machines. I don't know, I'm going with the future scrapyard idea like Junkrat or Roadhog. There you go, make Roadhog your heavy, just something different from the game you're ripping off. Something. Look, my biggest problem with the game is they did too good of a job copying their big console inspirations, and that still says something. Shadowgun Legends might not be the most original game, but it does have its own elements and charm, and does a great job providing a bigger experience than any other mobile game of its kind. If you've been looking for a mobile game that you can actually sink hours into, this might be the perfect one. So despite a few flaws, the game's quality brightly shines through, making Shadowgun Legends definitely worth my time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry this one took so long to get out. It was a big game. There was a lot to talk about. I think this is the longest worth my time as of now in the series, and plus last week I lost a whole bunch of work that I had already done on the video, so I had to reshoot it all. So if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to support the show and subscribe to the channel if you're not. And if you want to go above and beyond, consider supporting me on Patreon. That being said, here's a special thanks to everyone who donated over $5 on Patreon. Drew Iterator Rick, thank you. Colleen Sikazu, thank you. Xavier Charlotte, thank you. Sloosh Gaming, thank you. Arcus, thank you. Frandom Violence, thank you. Frantic Ficus, which of course I get the name right now. Frenaticus, thank you. Robert Layrock, thank you. Courtney Purvis, thank you. Gooch, thank you. Patrick Granger, thank you. George Thompson, thank you. Ammo to Go, thank you. Lady Irish, thank you. Carlos Ruiz, thank you. Riley Davidson, thank you. Danish Venture, thank you. They Call Me Pepper, thank you. Curtis Wilson, thank you. Luke A. Water, thank you. Carl Sykes, thank you. JJ Tube, thank you. TJ Grum, thank you. Omar Diaz, thank you. Paul Witowski, thank you. $2 Gaming, thank you. Ryan O'Connell, Shadowcloud, thank you. And Frederick Moeller, my goodness, that list is getting long. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Have a good one, and I'll see you on the next video.